it's really great validation of what we've been doing, and it will ultimately translate to more work for us as well. And I think that's very important. I've always had this vision of creating like a well-rounded ecosystem that includes small players, big players, basically everyone. And it's, I think once we have been able to create this well-rounded ecosystem, things will really start to take off. And if you look at the history of some other open source projects, like Linux, for example, it wasn't until Dell started shipping with Linux and until IBM really started to get involved that the Linux project really started to take off. So hopefully we'll have similar effects on Drupal. Another big elephant, Microsoft. They have a booth, they're a platinum sponsor of the conference. Already they put up Acquia Drupal on Microsoft.com. If you go to Microsoft.com/web, you can download Drupal from their website. Announcing today also, they're basically announcing that they've worked with the PHP team to get better Microsoft SQL drivers into PHP. And they've done so using PDO. Why did they choose to use PDO? Well, frankly, because Drupal 7 uses PDO, and they're very committed to making Microsoft SQL work with Drupal. So I think that's another example. I've worked with the commerce guys on this, but I think it's another example of, big elephants stepping into the game and really, starting to invest in Drupal as well. Ultimately, I think it's a really healthy thing for the project. Something else, another quick development is, the NoSQL movement. So, as most of you know, CCK will be part of Drupal 7, right? And so we created this field API and stuff. When the field API was designed and envisioned almost 2 years ago, it was always envisioned to work with CouchDB. And so we wanted to build an API which wasn't only working with relational databases, but also with sort of the NoSQL databases. And today, it actually exists, and it works with MongoDB and things like Cassandra. And for some projects like the Examiner, which is switching to Drupal 7 right now, it's been critical. And so I think it's a really cool development because we're one of the most forward-thinking projects in that regard. I haven't seen any other large open source CMS sort of make those of very strategic, important architectural decisions. And I'm basically seeing the market almost catch up with that. So I think it's a really cool thing, and I'm very excited about these recent developments. Sort of a last quickie. The Pro Drupal development book, which is a Bible to many of us, will actually be updated to Drupal 7. I won't disclose who the authors will be. I'll leave that up to them. But progress is being made. So anyway, a list of cool developments, and there's many more. I can't talk about all of them, but let's take a step back and sort of, look at the Drupal world, right? So I can show you some quick statistics. Like Drupal core was downloaded, more than 200,000 times last month. There's been more than 6,700 contributed projects, up from 5,000 a year ago. Demand for Drupal is really like skyrocketing. Everybody's looking for Drupal people, it seems. And so, I can show you all of those statistics, but ultimately what matters is how many Drupal sites are there, right? And so 4 years ago, when I was still doing my, my PhD work, people kept asking me this question. I was like, well, I don't know the answer. We didn't have update, module, and anything of this. So, I basically decided to start writing a crawler and to count all of the Drupal sites. So I would, go over the entire internet and see which of those sites are Drupal. And so I did that, and I counted, many Drupal sites. But ultimately, I had to move from 1 machine to 2 machines to 3 machines to keep this crawler thing running. And as a student, I didn't have the money, nor the time, honestly, to keep this going. So one of the things we've done at Acquia is we've revived the crawler. Right, and so there's somebody working on the crawler right now, and it has been crawling for a while. And then the other thing we did is we took, from Alexa, they give you the top 1 million sites, essentially, based on, it's ranked on the number of different criteria. And we basically cross-referenced the results of both, and if there was a site wasn't crawled yet, we would crawl it and stuff like that. And so, it's a very powerful crawler. Must be crawling the Drupal site now. Anyway, so we had it crawl, and the result of the crawl is that Drupal now powers more than 1% of the web. I could give you a lot of other statistics, but I think this speaks for itself. It's pretty cool. It's also very exciting to know that a lot of our current success is built on Drupal 6, right? And we've been working on Drupal 7 for 2.5 years, which is a long, long time. And I don't know, I can't help but believe that once Drupal 7 is released, Drupal momentum will continue to increase and acceleration will continue to grow. So it's going to be very interesting and also very easy now to track this number over time, which should be fun. So let's talk a little bit more about Drupal 7. So lots of momentum in Drupal right now. I think we're also working on Drupal 7. I think it's, first of all, it's very important that we get it out as soon as possible, because once we lose momentum, and I don't think we're losing momentum, but if we were to lose momentum, it's really hard to regain the momentum. So getting Drupal 7 out, I think, is a big deal. So I'll talk a little bit about Drupal 7 now. I'm not going to talk too much about it, because I've already talked about it in Paris, for example, and on other occasions. Plus, there's going to be many sessions on Drupal 7, so no need for me to talk about it much. But just to give you an idea, we accepted more than 6,000 patches into Drupal 7 core from more than 700 people. And these are the patches that have been accepted. I don't know how many patches I rejected. Hopefully not too many. But what is interesting about this data, if you look at it a little bit more, you actually see that it's sort of a long tail distribution, right? And what it means is, I don't know if this works, sort of. Like there is, at least there's one person that has more than 300 patches in core, and then there is like 700 something people that have one or more patches into core, right? That's essentially what it means. And so I started digging into this data a little bit more, and basically came to the conclusion that 25 contributors actually contributed 50% of the code in Drupal 7. And so what I did is I made a slide with the top 20, because top 25. They've done amazing work, so they really, that applause was super well deserved. But what I would encourage all of you to do, all 3,000 of you minus 25 or minus 20, is to really go in the issue queues and look at how these people work. You'll find that they don't make excuses. They truly believe that they can fix the hardest problems in Drupal, and they do. And so I think there's a big lesson there for anyone, really. Because I talk to many people that want to do some core development or even Drupal development in general, but then they feel uncertain about their ability to do so. But if you look at the people that actually get the stuff done, they do because they believe they can do. They don't really question or doubt themselves. And I think all of you should just dive in and just do it. And then there's one other person I wanted to thank, which is WebChick. So she isn't done yet, but she's been an